Hi guys, welcome back to the course. Not really a lesson today. This video is trying to do something quite different. I'm trying to draw your attention to the wonderful literature, the wonderful resources you have as a language learner. So I want to recommend some books, I want to recommend some websites, some papers for you to read. One thing I should really note, you're so lucky. When I was your age, I didn't have this wonderful set of resources that you have. So I've got a bit of envy talking to you about all of this stuff. Hey, you've got a whole bunch of different possibilities for improving your English. I'm going to focus on 4 different things in this presentation. I'm going to draw your attention to books and to ebooks that are out there for you. I'm going to talk about online magazines and newspapers. I'm going to talk about dictionaries and reference books. Again, there's a whole load of stuff out there for you. Finally, I'm going to say a few words about your free time. Before I start though, something that's really worth noting. Your language students, you're learning English. You're learning English with me. Please know, English is a language spoken quite differently in the UK and the US. Brits tend to understand Americans very, very easily. We're used to their language from their TV and their movies. Americans understand Brits slightly less well because of differences in terminology. And these differences in terminology are really interesting if you look at an area like the management of social care services. You know, suddenly you've got a very specific field with quite specific jargon. My tip is, if you want to improve your English, decide quite early for British or American English. Try not to mix them all the time. If you've got loads of friends in the States, for example, or you've got one friend in the States, pick that variant of English. Does that make sense? Don't mix too much. So my presentation is zooming in on British English resources, and my American friends could give you more American English recommendations. So be careful mixing UK and US English. They really are incompatible in social care. Pick one or the other and stay in it. A tip for actually finding literature, please note, North American academics, they use the middle letters in their names, and Brits tend not to. So if you've got a book cover in front of you, you can easily see if the author's probably British or probably North American. I make this point because looking at the country in which it's published doesn't help you. Brits love to have their books published by big American publishing companies. Americans quite like the prestige of, say, the Oxford University Press. So looking at the publisher doesn't tell you the nationality of the author, but the name as it's printed on the cover does. So if I publish a book in America, which I haven't, but if I did, I'd be Magnus J. Frampton. If I publish in the UK, I'd be Magnus Frampton. Magnus J. Frampton in the States. Sounds kind of cool, doesn't it? It's like Michael J. Fox. Oh, I like that. That's good fun, that is. So there you are, a nice tip. And if you're good at graphic design, you can also spot an American book by its cover very, very quickly. They've got a strangely different visual aesthetic. It's really quite odd. Let's move on. Let's not talk about American visual taste. Let's move on. What books can I recommend for you? It's really nice to read a book which is written in simple, clear English. And this book here, mine's an earlier edition. This book here really is a perfect example of that. Neil Thompson's book. Thompson's book is designed for university social care students in year 1. So he doesn't assume previous knowledge. He really keeps his ideas very, very simple. It's a beautiful introduction, and it's quite a slim book as well. You can read it in a couple of days. So there you are. If you want to pick up one word to really get you into the ease of reading and writing academic English, this is the one for you. This, of course, isn't about management, it's about social work in a more general sense. Please note, Thompson does sometimes write on management topics elsewhere. So if you like the book, you can find other interesting material by him. There you are, recommendation number 1. It's in our library, of course. Recommendation number 2, a great series of books. You might have a topic, a kind of a client group maybe that's interesting for you, and you want to find literature on that. And there's a lovely series of social work texts. They're more social work than social care. This one here, my cover's different from the one in front of you, because I've got an earlier edition. So it's the Transforming Social Work Practice series, a great collection of introduction texts. Whatever client group you have in mind, I bet there's a volume in that series for you. So if you're interested in working with disabled people, you'll find the book. If you're interested in working in mental health services, you'll find the book. Yeah, really, really recommended. There's even a volume, I think, on management in that series as well. Good, good. Leaving the area of social work and returning to this broader area of social care. This is a nice one that I can recommend. I've got the first edition in my office in Vechta. Here you've got the cover of the third edition, Effective Leadership, Management and Supervision in Health and Social Care. The title alone gets you excited, doesn't it? Very well worth checking out. This one I've got here, it's a favourite of mine, but I should say this has one weakness. It is older. This was published 13 years ago. I'm hoping they'll update this at some point because it's beginning to show its age a little bit. Social care management changes so rapidly. This volume has a whole bunch of co-editors. It's co-edited by something like 5 or 7 people, which is great. And they really make it transatlantic. You've got US authors, you've got British authors, all collecting their papers together. So it gives it a lovely transatlantic breadth. There you are. So older, but still worth picking up. Some of these books are expensive. It goes without saying. My tip is check out the library resources at the start of your modules. Get the literature from the library. If you really like it, you can always buy it later. Our library doesn't have so many recommended ebooks. Those books I've just mentioned are in the library on paper, but it doesn't have so many recommended ebooks. The ebook range is going to be growing, presumably, in the coming months, and you can always recommend them an ebook. They might take up on your recommendations, but so far lots of the books are on paper. There's not so much in English in our library anyway. What it does have are these e-journals. So for me as a social worker, I can read my British Journal of Social Work in the Vechta Library digitally. What do you think though, guys? Are academic journal articles, these scientific and scholarly papers, are they good for you to read? I want you to pause now and discuss this question with your partner. What do we think about academic journal articles? Are they any good? Pause here. What did you say? I'm a little bit ambivalent on this particular question. On the one hand, as a lecturer, I might say to you, hey, read this paper, it's really interesting. But as an English teacher, I should be more careful. Please note, journal articles in English can be hard to read. They're much harder than the books I've just recommended. The books I've just recommended are written for university bachelor's students, some of whom might even be first-year students. The writing style is clear. Journal articles are more designed for final year students, or even MA students, or even researchers. So please note, when you're reading this academic journal article, it's from some kind of international journal of management, you may have the feeling it's not really being written for you. You know, you're reading it thinking, oh, this is hard to read, and that's no fun. So I can't really put my hand on my heart and say, read these papers. So my tip is, get out those introductory books, use the distance lending service in our library, the Fernleihe. It's a great service, and it's a wonderful resource to actually have, particularly when you're writing your bachelor's thesis in a year or two's time. So use that distance lending service from the library, Fernleihe, find out how it works, and supplement this by reading the magazines and newspapers that I recommend in the next slides. And great news here, guys, you're really spoilt here. There's some wonderful online resources. Where do we start? As a Brit, I might start with this one, Community Care. It's a journal for professionals. This is a journal for workers. If you work in the social care workforce in the UK, you've probably bookmarked this on your laptop. It's a website with articles about new current developments in our field of activity, and it also has a wonderful portal for jobs. So there you are, a great starting point, good fun. Maybe my favorite online resource is this next one, The Guardian newspaper. I read this every morning, guys. The Guardian newspaper is a free online quality newspaper. I think it's of the highest quality, and the fact that it's free online is wonderful in these times. It's becoming harder and harder to get access to good, high-quality journalism free of charge. The Guardian has a beautiful model. It's free, and it's kind of crowd-funded. If you like it, you make a donation from time to time, or you voluntarily subscribe. But even if you don't subscribe, you can still access it completely free. So it's a beautiful example of good, free journalism. Politically speaking, it's not neutral, it's slightly left of centre. It's slightly left of centre. It's read by people with professions like social care worker or school teacher. I love it. On Wednesdays, it has a society edition. I've got a screenshot of that page where it has lots of articles themed to social questions, society questions, community questions, voluntary sector management questions, social care questions. So a really wonderful resource, as well as articles that even has podcasts. If you want to compare it to a German newspaper, please know it's broadly equivalent to the Süddeutsche Zeitung. I sometimes read both of those on the same morning, and the articles are very similar. They've got the same news agency. So a parallel to the German Süddeutsche Zeitung. There's some wonderful resources, other magazines, other papers, but it's worth noting many of them are behind paywalls. Obviously, it may be easier to read a magazine like this via the library website, where presumably we have a subscription. So please note, if you log into this from your private computer, you'll find it hidden mostly behind a paywall. Really recommended nonetheless. The Economist, again, it's a transatlantic resource. I think it's mostly read in the States, but it is based in London originally, historical, so it's actually British in terms of its roots. Articles primarily about economic topics, also related things like politics, society. Really, really interesting, beautifully written. So again, another good guide for good academic writing, although it's journalism. Free journalism. Politically speaking, yeah, it's somewhere slightly right of centre, isn't it? Obviously, this is economically liberal in terms of its political philosophy. Nonetheless, read by a whole bunch of managers, so strongly recommended. I use this for translating. It has a useful search function. You can type in a word and see if there's articles written about it. So it's a lovely way of testing whether your vocabulary is authentic. Great resource, as is the next one. Look at this. How cool is this? A financial newspaper also published in Britain, and it's pink. Oh, I love it. That's such a cool concept, isn't it? So I grin when I open the website in the morning. Like The Economist, kind of economic liberal in terms of its political background. Also hidden behind a paywall, although you can read the beginnings of articles. Again, something really, really good for you. This is a newspaper read by business people, read by managers all over the world. Dictionaries. I want to say a few words about dictionaries. Again, there's some great ones, guys. Important point, these are really published in big numbers. British and American students use them a lot, and therefore you can pick them up quite cheaply. You know, often you can get one of these secondhand for just a few euros. So really worth having. And I've got my social work and social care one on my desk most of the time. Check them out, guys. Check them out. Really, really great for when you're writing essays. You can take definitions from the concepts you're using. It's a very quotable source to draw from. We also have online general dictionaries. When Brits define a concept which is an everyday language, we often turn to the Oxford English Dictionary. And rather wonderfully, the paper version I have underneath my bed, collecting dust, that's free online. The company, that archive has been purchased by Lexico that are running it at the moment, so visit Lexico to get OED definitions. Now, we've also got these wonderful bilingual dictionaries. You type in the German word and it will give you the English word. The two biggest ones, I think it's fair to say, are Leo and Lingui, used by translators. It's worth noting, though, use them with care. These are not really for general English, excuse me, these are for general English, they're not for management or social care jargon. So if you type in a general German word, you'll get a good general English word, but if you type in a specific management term, you might not. It's a bit trickier, so be careful there. Nonetheless, well worth bookmarking. Hey, so many resources. This final one is recommended for your portfolio. I love it when you guys do me an authentic English CV, and this is the best book I found on CVs. I got a whole book out, a whole bunch out actually. I borrowed and purchased a whole bunch of books on CV writing. None of them was really very, very good, but this one was, so highly recommended, German published. One of the authors is certainly an authentic native speaker, and both of them are experts on the Anglo-Saxon CV. Good. The final book I can't actually say much about. This book here, Fach Englisch für die soziale Arbeit, I can't really say if it's any good. What I can say is what's in it. It's got 444 pages with translations of about 5,000 specific terms. So it's largely a kind of a glossary dictionary resource for you guys. The concept of the book is that these related terms are then collected together in thematically linked chapters. So the author's picking a different topic for every unit, and there's 80 units collecting thematically linked words. It's an ebook in our library, so you can grab it, you can access that as a PDF, but because I wrote it myself, I can't really say whether it's any good. It's probably. And I can certainly say, what I can say is that the author's a complete idiot. Just ask my wife and kids. Hey, I've gone through all the literature available to you guys. Maybe it's nice for me to close this presentation by noting how much you can use English in your free time. Watching English language television, watching YouTube, you know, just spending an afternoon surfing on YouTube, TED Talks, you know, there's so much wonderful stuff out there. Watching movies in English, surfing the internet in English, just reading in English a lot is really going to help you. So do as much reading as you can, do as much speaking, talking with your English speaking friends. And if you don't have any, guys, your homework is to find some. So there you are. Integrate English into your free time. Make English not just part of your work, make English part of your leisure time, something that's fun in your life. Hey, let's come to a close now. If you've got any questions about that, you can ask us in our session. Thanks for your interest, guys. Press stop. See you in our video conference.